So we're going to talk a little bit about knife sharpening, knife maintenance, and cutting boards. So one of the things that I've found is when I first started working here, I wouldn't really talk about pull-through sharpeners because I was a little bit of a knife sharpening like snob, let's say. I wanted to use the stone and only the stone, go right to the craft. But what I found actually in talking about stones to people and seeing, so many people over the years in different knife skills classes and working in so many kitchens over the last 20 years plus, is that probably 95% of the people want to have a sharp knife, and maybe 5% want to learn how to sharpen a knife. So we're looking at a big difference there. So if we want to just have a sharp knife, which is the first step to having a safe knife, right? So no matter what knife you have at home, even if it's a $20 knife, here at Cook Culture we sharpen knives for free, whether you've bought your knife here or not. Okay? So if you have a dull knife, bring it down one or two at a time, we'll sharpen it and you can get started with a sharp knife. Okay? Now, if you just want to have a sharp knife, the easiest way to have a sharp knife and to keep it sharp is with a pull-through sharpener at home like this. This particular one is my favorite. It has water in the bottom and it's got these rollers which make it a whetstone, very similar to the approach that I use with my knife stone. So what we want to do is, if it's very dull, we'll start with coarse, then there's the medium, and fine is the polish. So you would step it down, you'd start with coarse, then do medium, then do fine. This is already a sharp knife, so we don't need to do those two, but I'm just going to, as an example, show you how to use a pull through. We're going to go right from the heel to the tip and apply a good amount of pressure, but not too hard. And we want to get the whole knife through, heel to tip. Okay, and then we're going to just feel the blade. And I feel like it's got a tiny little hook on this side, so I'll use my sharpening steel, stone, or honing steel, and I'll just do a couple of passes to smooth out that edge. Okay, so that's beautiful. Alternatively, if you want to learn the craft of knife sharpening, it's a bit of a longer process. But just to give you a little bit of an example, we've got a Japanese sharpening stone here, and it has two grits on it, two roughnesses, right? The grit is how rough it is. So this one, you can't see, but this would be a 300, and then this would be 1,000. Okay, 3 or 600, probably 3, but possibly 6. And this is going to be when the knife is a bit more dull. And so you'll want to, I'm not going to do it too much on here because this isn't soaked, but you'll want to soak the stone. And then as an example, you're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 on one side, 10 on the other side, 9, 9, 8, 8, 7, 7, 6, 6, 5, 5, 4, 4, 3, 3, 2, 2, 1. Then flip it over and do the same on the polishing edge. And then you'll check your blade and see how sharp it is. Now you can see with that long process, if you were to get that wrong, you would then have to go back and start from the beginning and bring it all the way back through that process. So now you can see why a pull-through sharpener versus a sharpening stone, if you just want to have a sharp knife, get this tool. If you want to learn the craft of knife sharpening, this is the tool for you. Okay? This will keep you busy and interested for many years to come, and it's something you have to work at and learn like any other craft. So the next tool in the kitchen that is related to knife sharpening is the either honing steel or sharpening steel. Okay? And they're two different tools. If it's ceramic or has a diamond finish, it's a sharpening steel. If it has these long lines, this is a honing steel. The difference between the two is the honing steel just brings the knife back into true that's a knife that's already sharp has just come a little bit out of sharpness, so the little edges, the little fibers on the top fray, and the honing steel just brings them back into true. Now the sharpening steel, as you can see by all the metal in here, is for actually pulling small bits of metal off and actually sharpening the knife. Now this is a very fine polish, so it's not taking too much metal off. And to be honest, these two tools are probably the most improperly used, because they're very difficult if you don't understand what it feels like for a knife to be sharpened to use properly. Okay, because we have two moving parts in the air, and generally speaking what the instruction is you're to apply 5 pounds of pressure at a between 17 and 22 degree angle mid-air with two moving parts. So you can see that that's fairly difficult instructions to follow. Unless you know what it feels like, you're likely going to be doing it wrong. So it's a matter, this is also something that is a craft you have to practice, and the best way to test it is to say, did my knife get sharper? Okay? And have someone show you in person and practice, practice, practice. So one of the things that goes hand in hand with a good knife is a quality cutting board. And if you're going to get a quality cutting board, especially a nice wooden board like this, either end grain or edge grain cutting boards, one of the things that you have to do is you have to maintain it and you have to oil it. Okay? So if you keep a board oiled, it will prevent it from warping, and then also it makes it sanitary. So if a board gets dry, it becomes like a sponge for bacteria. So you want to think, even if they say wood is antibacterial, that's not necessarily the case if it's a sponge and it's soaking things deep into it. So you want to create an oil-water barrier by saturating your board in a food-grade mineral oil. Okay? So there are some specialty oils that we sell here at Cook Culture that have beeswax and mineral oil, but any food-grade mineral oil will work. Don't saturate your board with olive oil, coconut oil, grapeseed oil, avocado oil. These oils will go rancid, so that's not what we want. We want a neutral food-grade mineral oil that we can saturate the board with, and that happens by putting the oil on the board and using a paper towel to work it into all the edges. And when it stops soaking up oil, you can see this board has been oiled, has oil on top. That means it's not soaking it up anymore and it's completely saturated. And when a board is completely saturated, then you could cut chicken on it, a little soapy wash, wipe it clean, rinse it off, and it'll be fine. If that board was dry and you cut chicken on it, it's going to suck those chicken juices straight into it, and you're potentially going to have salmonella in your board. So you want to keep your board saturated with oil. That's a good, healthy, clean, safe board.